So this is just a piece of graffiti. This is now commonplace in Portland. What it says is kill a cop for fun.
Mhm.
And it has a picture of a smiley face underneath. It is not uncommon to see sentiments like this. The
Yeah.
idea that police are deserving of being murdered. We also see graffiti like this about Andy Ngo, a journalist,
Not recently, but
I believe a journalist was actually assaulted last night, if I understood what I saw on Twitter correctly, a Portland journalist.
I don't know.
But in any case, you have people telling you what they're actually about, right? This protest, if you were protesting something important and somebody else in your protest was saying kill cops for fun, then you would distance yourself so that your important point wasn't lost in an obviously crazy point. And yet
Yeah.
that does not happen. We have the
Yep.
mixture of all of these things together, and they result in people being able to find what they want. Those who want to see these riots sympathetically can find sentiments that they resonate with, and those who want to see the whole picture find chaos because it's an incoherent set of statements. And frankly, anarchism is so much at the root of this. Anarchists who, in the aftermath of, after protesting and claiming that this was all driven by Donald Trump, as soon as Joe Biden won, we saw them attack the Democratic headquarters and proclaim we are ungovernable. And the answer is, look, you are ungovernable. The rest of us are not ungovernable. We wish to be governed well. And it's not yours to say whether any of us get good government, right? Good government is essential. If you don't understand that and you're going to violate the law, then you need to pay the price. And what we have in this city is we have corporations and city government that are coddling these crazy beliefs. We have businesses that, are regularly trying to get vandals to move on to someone else, which of course puts someone else in the crosshairs. And then we have
But it's not in the purview of any small business to obliterate the vandals. That's the government's job.
Right. It's the government's job. And the point is, we in Portland who understand that governance is necessary are a majority, certainly, right? We're not all insane. And the problem is, it has become hard to say that we need good governance, that we need policing. It needs to be good. But yes, we need policing. No, don't defund, don't abolish, right? These things are necessary to a functional society. And so what we are now seeing is what happens when you try to appease crazy people who don't understand the basics. And, we're getting, unfortunately, what we collectively ordered. And
it's going to get terrible again. This was bad enough, but it's going to get terrible again like it was last summer, in part for the same reasons that it happened last summer. And forget their cover story. Forget it's going to be the Chauvin trial verdict. It's going to be this, that, that's all cover story.
Yeah.
It's all cover story. The fact is, we have a lot of people who are dispossessed, who cannot see a way forward in the world in which they will be productive and interested and interesting. And whether or not they are conscious of that, it is a combination of an economy that is not serving people and crazy loads of student debt and credit card debt, and many people have been medicated into oblivion so they can't even recognize what their own moods are, and they're on their damn phones all the time, and they're just stuck in a hellscape from which they cannot escape. And now the lockdowns continue. There are going to be seemingly almost no live events through the Northern Hemisphere summer. That's 2 summers in a row with no outlets, no festivals, no concerts, no ability to get together and have fun and brawl and all. Well, okay, guess what we're going to do then? We're going to do the thing that the health experts have said is reflective of the actual pandemic, which is systemic racism. These people aren't about systemic racism. Some of them originally, and I mean, as you revealed in your conversation with Brittany King, and as you revealed in your conversations with Jeremy Lee Quinn, this is a whole mishmash of people But neither you nor I have said about what is happening right now in Portland or has been happening in this last week. These are protests that became riots, as we said about what was happening all of last summer, right? Because those were regular protests. And for the most part, we didn't think the protests made a ton of sense, but they were good faith. And some of them, many of them were actually about, real heartfelt sentiment and desire for real, honest, good change. But reliably, like clockwork, every night in Portland, they became riots. And this that's happening right now, doesn't even have a pretense.
Yeah,
it's not even pretending to be protests.
So to be clear about it, two things came together last summer, right? We have a long-standing fringe anarchist movement that has been very active in the Pacific Northwest for a long time, all the way WTO and long before that.
Yeah. So what's that, like 99 or 2001? One of those two.
Something in that neighborhood. Yeah. But it fused with Black Lives Matter last summer in the George Floyd protest era. And so, for a while it was sort of cloaked in this excuse. And now, the two things have more or less parted ways. And here, what we do now is we just skip right to the riot without, any meaningful explanation. I do want to correct one thing, though. You said that it's going to get worse. It doesn't have to. It's going to get worse because we are going to do the same thing that leads it to get worse. The thing that Apple did, which now Apple has been punished for coddling this sentiment, right? That thing results in it getting worse.
Yes.
The treating these crimes lightly, not arresting people when you do arrest them, setting low bail, the fact of the population creating a bail fund in which people who vandalize businesses are then legally supported by the public. And even, frankly, I have to say, Zach, could you put up the picture of the volunteer this morning?
I wanted to do something before that. That's not a volunteer.
Neither is that. There we go. So this is one of many volunteers who are cleaning up the streets of Portland this morning, as they do reliably.
Can we actually? So I really wanted to finish with that before we go into talking about the schools.
Okay.
Very quickly, can we just do one thing first?
Sure.
Zach, you had in the pictures that you were showing that you said were from me, something that's a picture that said "United by Love." Can you put that up? So this was outside. This is, these are the fancy stores in downtown Portland. And this, I think, was a Tiffany store, maybe? I'm not sure. This United by Love. And then the next one, which is right next door.
The composition on that photo is excellent.
Thank you. The next one should have been... Okay, so the pictures that you've shown, you need to find the pictures of the women's faces that have been vandalized, that were right next to, that were part of the Tiffany store. I don't know if they're in mine.
I sent it to you.
So I'm going to describe them for those of you listening. There is an array of photographs. There we go. No, that's it. Those are them. And this is, it's Tiffany. And it's women, it's white women and women of color. And right next to this United by Love sign, and all of the white women have had their faces X'd out. Except there's one white woman in profile who they didn't get. I think they just didn't recognize her as human or something. Their algorithm didn't work.
It may be how they understood she identifies.
Yeah, probably so. So United by Love, you say. So this, this elite brand, right? Like I don't know if I've ever even been in a Tiffany's. I mostly know of it from the Hemingway. Who is it? The film.
Audrey Hepburn.
Hepburn, not Hemingway. Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. But United by Love, and then we see that it's only people with skin of a particular color, and that, I don't know, that reminds me of eras in which there's been no love uniting people at all, and it didn't. It doesn't strike me as about inclusion or diversity or equity much.
No, it's
not much.
It's one irony after the other.
Yeah. So now I had started seeing, actually in my pictures you can show Zach as well, and I guess Dad has some too. There were all these volunteers showing all these volunteers picking up trash because our sky-high taxes in the city of Portland apparently can't cover trash cleanup after riots. We have to bring in volunteers, and these volunteers were, to a person, seemed lovely, and they were doing work that needed to be done. And why are
Well,
we using volunteers?
not only why are we using volunteers, but there's something about the way Portland cannot prevent a riot, but it is right on cleaning up and trying to minimize the appearance of the riot the day after. And this has been going on, for since the beginning of the George Floyd riots last year. And
we could smell solvent some places we were walking where they had already cleaned up a bunch of the graffiti this morning.
Right. They have a mechanism for cleaning this stuff up. And the point is, what part of you doesn't understand that it is your obligation to prevent this? And yes, clean up that which you cannot prevent. But, doing whatever, spending whatever, including the labor of people who are not being paid to clean up, presumably Portland's best citizens, volunteers who are willing to make downtown nicer in such a terrible circumstance, are paying the cost of Portland's worst citizens, who frankly have told us what they want to do. They want to burn it all down. They don't believe in any of this stuff. They don't believe that there are rules that can work. They've told us they don't get it. Right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to leave the cost to, the most benevolent among us, to deal with the vandals, rather than, support the police in doing good police work and arresting people who harm Portland and its citizens. I mean, it's just so obvious.
And again, this should not be, we should not be required to say this, but supporting the police and their ability to do good police work can, and I believe should, include restricting some of what the police are currently doing, which they shouldn't be doing, and actually getting mental health professionals to be able to respond to actual mental health calls, as opposed to having police be first responders for all manner of calls, including ones for which they're neither trained nor is it the best use of their time. So unfortunately, that proposal has often been trotted out as a replacement for police.
Yeah.
And that's insane. Just as, frankly, it's insane to have police doing all of the work, some of which would be better done by mental health counselors, right? Or, I don't know. This is not my purview, but clearly there are at least two, and probably many more, sorts of work that need to be done. And at the moment, the police force is being forced to do all of it. And of course, now it's being forced to do all of it on a shoestring budget with hemorrhaging of the police force, because of course good police are running away. Of course they are.
Yeah. Really, they're in a no-win situation.
Yeah.
And, I've talked to police about the fact that people are literally calling for their heads, burning them in effigy, etc. And, I must say, they appear to be unaffected by this and just treat it as, oh yes, that happens. On the other hand, what a terrible thing to have this job and to have good policing declared impossible and all police declared guilty by a bunch of people who know nothing, right?
Yeah.
That it's an appalling way to treat an essential function of society, and the disaster here is too predictable.